Live. Everywhere. On netrootsradio.com. David Waldman. Kagro. In the mornings. Now, here's David Waldman.
Hey, good morning, everybody. How you doing? It is Wednesday, March 18th, Boxing Day for magically delicious St. Patrick's Day, I suppose, and a little bit of a rough start, technically speaking. The music was a little rough. I was about 2 seconds behind on getting everything prepared, but, you know, some hot tea, and you don't want to spill that stuff all over yourself. Today, having consumed all the tea in China, we move on to all the tea in Jamaica, which I did not realize and may not actually be famous for any sort of tea or tea blend, but is present in my Teas of the World box. Thank you very much, Scott. Working my way through the Teas of the World, following a cup of coffee. So, I don't know, the tea's decaffeinated, so I think I'll be okay. But if the show is over in 20 minutes, you'll know why. But Greg Dworkin is here to make sure that we're not done in 20 minutes. However, he did say to me this morning his goal is just to get to the go away and come back tomorrow part, and I can't blame him. All right, let's see. All sorts of stories to cover today. Yesterday we spent a little bit of time, maybe we'll see whether it was worth it, focusing on some odd details of the naval picture in the Persian Gulf. The picture continues to be obscured in terms of the future of the Straits of Hormuz, etc., at least with regard to American sea power and shipping power. Other countries are finding their own ways around this stuff, and none of them, as far as I can tell, involve digging a canal around the straits with nuclear weapons. Even those who have nuclear weapons are finding other ways around. We'll have to get around to that. There were elections yesterday, not through no fault of my own. There were some elections yesterday. I didn't do it, but it's Wednesday, and that's the way we roll in this country. Tuesday, and now every other day. It's sort of like football. We now have Thursday night football. We got Saturday primaries, all sorts of things. But Tuesday is a traditional day, and we'll stand by it. So Greg Dworkin has lots to get to, and he's wondering if he'll be able to cut out early, so we'll keep the fanfare short. How about that? Yeah, it's always his favorite, the plant-based butter fanfare of Imperial artisanal vegan butter. Good morning, Greg. How are you?
Good morning. I can't believe it's not Tuesday.
You're right. That's true, but you're going to have to get over it.
Yeah, I'm over it.
All right.
Okay.
Excellent.
So let's talk elections, and let's start with Virginia.
All right. I had
There was a Republican win, as expected, but maybe a little more, in House District 98. That's, I think, in the Virginia Beach area.
Well, that's a beach, so it's not near my house.
Military.
Yeah.
Conservative area.
Okay. I mean, still.
And
yeah.
The Republican won by maybe 10 points more than 2024, something like that. And the only reason it's of interest, because the Republican was heavily expected to win, is the question of whether or not the Virginia referendum on gerrymandering is sparking Republican turnout, because gerrymandering voting is certainly up in the rural areas.
Yeah.
And it remains to be seen whether the Democratic base comes out as we get closer to the election day, whenever that is.
April 11th?
Yeah, something like that. So a lot of time.
But I'm doing early voting, as many people are, and so they forget about the dates. But don't let the date run out on you.
It's expected to pass, but, it may be a 5-point win, not a 30-point win.
Yeah, you're going to have to go.
In other words, it may trail Abigail Spanberger's win.
Okay.
The New Jersey person who's governor of Virginia right now.
Right. We swapped with the other one who got
Mikey
sent to New Jersey to win.
Was from Virginia, but now he's in New Jersey. So I thought that was of interest, but probably the bigger interest for most people who don't live in Virginia. We just happen to love Virginia people. But, for those who don't live in Virginia, Illinois is where everybody was looking.
Yeah. Right. Looking at people with very long names.
And there's something, I don't know, I forget, 17 districts that were up for grabs in the Democratic primary, but only 4 of them were of national interest. 2, 7, 8, and 9.
Okay.
Which goes to show that the middle is always where you want to be in politics. 7, 8, and 9.
I guess so.
Out of 17.
Yeah.
So this is Boltz writing it up, Boltz magazine.
All right.
In the Chicago region, 4 safely blue seats are open. And remember, most of the votes in Illinois come from Cook County. 4 safely blue seats are open, and these primaries will effectively decide 4 new members of Congress. Illinois 2. The 10 candidates include State Senator Robert Peters, who sponsored the state law that eliminated cash bail, Representative Jesse Jackson Jr., and Cook County Commissioner Donna Miller.
Yeah.
Donna Miller wins.
Oh, all right.
Okay. And that's a big win for AIPAC, a big loss for AIPAC, which was...
AI. Yeah.
There's a PAC.
That's good.
It's not called AIPAC, but, there's AIPAC and then
That's
AIPAC. And AI was really heavily in for somebody else, so that's a loss for them because Miller wins.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Illinois 8, Melissa Bean, former member of Congress, moderate blue dog. She wins. Her opponents had left-leaning politicians, Chicago Teachers Union, and so that is a win for AIPAC. If you're
all right.
And also Crypto PAC.
Oh, wonderful.
And AI PAC, they all supported big money supported Melissa Bean, the already in Congress and coming back Congressperson, which is unusual. Usually people who try to come back lose.
Yeah. They lost the first time for a reason.
And I think Pritzker was okay with that. I think everybody that won was okay by Pritzker. That was 8. In 7, endorsements split in a very crowded field to replace Danny Davis.
All right.
And in 7, let's see who won. I think Ford wins. A loss for both Crypto and AIPAC.
All right.
Right. Kevin Robillard is just over at Huffington Post. HuffPost is following the PACs in terms of
I hadn't
how
followed
they
the
did.
crypto part, but that's wise.
Yeah. And then the big one that everybody was watching.
Yeah, couldn't stop.
Kat Abigazili, who is from Media Matters and a very, very online person, recently moved into the district, very young.
Yes.
Potty mouth, so I like her. Our friend Marcy Wheeler would like her.
Okay.
Big potty mouth person. So she was running against Evanston Mayor Dan Biss.
Yes.
And
a couple others.
AIPAC was furious with Biss, who is Jewish and has Holocaust survivor family members, because he's pro-Israel, anti-genocide, anti-Netanyahu. And they wanted him out, and they spent a ton of money.
That is
trying to get him out.
To be expected,
Biss wins,
I guess, but
AIPAC loses,
he's
so
normal.
that's one of the one that was really, really being followed closely.
Okay, like a normal guy who's got his head on his shoulders. And
so Mark Maxwell, local
that's
TV
weird.
guy,
I hate
says
that.
it's Pritzker's party now. All of his endorsements won. Illinois Democratic primary turnout's on pace to finish about 40 to 47% higher than 2022. Illinois GOP primary turnout is about 10% lower than 2022. Pritzker's opponent, Darren Bailey's donors are drying up. And there was also a senator primary, and the winner there was the Lieutenant Governor Stratton, a black woman who Pritzker had endorsed.
Yes.
And so, for the most part, the left to moderate candidates generally won. The very left candidates didn't do quite as well.
Well, they didn't
but
win.
Huge turnout, and the people voted, and that's what matters. And so Mike Noble, who is a Midwestern Republican-leaning pollster, very good one, says Democratic voter enthusiasm is real. Republicans should be very nervous for the upcoming midterms. Frank Luntz, Republican wordsmith, writes, number of voters in tonight's Illinois Democratic Senate primary surpassed the total in any Democratic Senate primary held during a non-presidential year over the past 30 years.
That took so long to say. I got bored in the middle of it. But yeah,
total turnout,
it makes
well,
sense.
it's because it's Luntz, and you didn't really want to listen to him anyway. Total
Yes.
turnout is expected to exceed the 2004 Illinois primary when Barack Obama was elected to the Senate.
Who?
That was about 1.2 million voters.
1.2 million years ago.
Cook County is roughly 41% of the state population, and it provided 55% of Stratton's vote, and she was the winner. And that would be, according to Kevin Robillard, looking at the PACs, Stratton win would be a loss for crypto PACs.
Oh, good. I don't know who. I missed the idea
that
of even
was
paying
Stratton
attention.
was running against Raja Krishnamurthy.
Okay. Yes.
And Dave Weigel observes
he does
that this isn't the reason he lost.
Mm-hmm.
But at one point, and this is why procedure matters.
No. All right.
At some point, the House, and Krishnamurthy was in the House, I guess, at the time.
Mm-hmm.
He's there now, right? So,
yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know what time it is, but he's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You may be late.
So the House GOP stuck some pro-ICE language into a resolution condemning anti-Semitism. I suppose Krishnamurthy voted for it.
Okay.
And Weigel says not the reason he lost, but he voted to support ICE line was all over television.
I can see that.
Right? It didn't hurt Melissa Bean, because when she was in Congress, she voted for funding for DHS, and that was prominently featured, and that failed. But, Raja Krishnamurthy loses, and so you can say, okay, well, that's part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Certainly, what mattered is Krishnamurthy had the early lead, and then Pritzker injected a ton of money. And his candidate won. So Pritzker had a good night.
Okay.
So that's what happened in Illinois and Virginia. And the Virginia redistricting, remains fascinating. It's important, of course, number one. And number two, it does look like it's on track to win, not by a huge margin, but by enough, and that'll matter.
I'm going to go vote.
And number three,
yes.
And remember, you and everybody in your family who can ought to vote.
We're getting in the family sedan and heading out there later. Yeah.
And number three, should it pass, as expected?
It should.
It's all thanks to Eloise Lucas, who is a force.
Yeah.
Would not have happened without her.
That's absolutely true. It wouldn't have happened in this form. Wouldn't have happened at all. Yeah. Good. Fantastic. She's got her. I mean, usually when people say, well, her fingerprints are all over it, it's got a negative connotation. But in this case, she's actually quite awesome and did it herself.
Now, I want to go back to Illinois 9
and
just mention some numbers here.
All right. 9, that's one.
That's 9, yeah. Mm-hmm. Daniel Biss, who's the winner.
Okay, I have to learn his name. Easy to say.
29.6%.
29.6, okay.
In second, Kat Abighazli.
Yes.
25.7.
That is a lot of points.
29.6. Laura Fine in third, and this was the AIPAC favorite candidate, 20%.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And if I'm not mistaken, there was something like 12 or 13 other people.
I don't know, but a lot.
That's why, 29.6 wins. But,
yes,
this is the Rorschach test. You look at Kat Abighazli coming in at 25.7.
All right.
Second.
We're looking.
Did she do well or did she not do well? All the conservatives are saying, look, you can't be... This is Nate Silver, for example.
Yeah.
There's plenty of appetite for progressivism within the Democratic electorate, but the very online version of it doesn't travel well. On the other hand, everybody else is looking at this and saying, you know what? First of all, she beat Laura Fine. Secondly, she just moved into the district. She's new. And this is a phenomenal second-place finish, given where she started.
Yes.
So she did fine. She didn't win.
Yeah.
But she did finer than Fine, who lost.
Well, that was fine.
And that's
fine. That's true. Right. And I mean, that's not a lot of votes. The raw vote total was I think, tells an even closer picture. I mean, it was like 4,000 or 5,000 votes between her and Biss.
Yeah. So basically, a journalist beat an Illinois state senator.
Yeah.
Who had $5 million in AIPAC money.
I mean,
that's
you can't ignore that. It was interesting and well done.
Daniel Biss was a fine candidate, and he won. Great, wonderful.
Yeah,
these are all blue districts, so whoever wins is going to be the next congressperson.
I mean, my hope is that if we say, look, she made a credible race of it, and she woke a lot of people up to a lot of interesting aspects of the race, and she did things in a very interesting way.
I mean, what a wonderful combo.
She got lots of attention to it. Another guy won, but by the way, he's actually a pretty decent Democrat, and even if it's not your most exciting in this district, then it'll be disappointing. If you lived in that district and you were a huge fan of hers, that will be disappointing. But you won't be represented by, someone antithetical to your views. Don't get angry that he beat her. She, did her best, and everybody else did too, and what can I tell you? But you did far from getting the worst candidate. So what do you do? I don't know what her political future is, or maybe she's had enough. Maybe she just wants to do the activist side, or not. I guess we'll find out later on. But yeah, very often there's bitterness when you get really hyped about a candidate and they don't win, and then everybody else sucks because they're not them. And don't be that way. Don't beat yourself up. Don't let yourself get down about it. There's certainly no point in staying home or allowing a Republican to win that district. It can't happen, generally speaking.
Yeah, that's not going to happen in Chicago.
But that doesn't mean stay home and in a huff.
It's the Chicago way.
She wanted you to be involved. Go be involved. You don't have to fall in love with the guy you end up voting for, but go vote. She will. So You should too.
Now, there's this monstrosity in the House, which went over to the Senate, which is called the Save America Act.
No, I thought it was Mark Wayne Mullen, I thought you meant.
Yeah, well, he's a monstrosity too, but soon he won't be in the Senate. So the Save America Act is purported to be and sold by the Republicans as a voter ID bill. It isn't.
No.
If they did it the way they did in Virginia, you guys get sent, IDs, right?
Well, we get sent voter cards.
And that's good enough to vote with, right?
I believe so, although it tends to be the case that when you go to the polls, they ask to see your ID, and people just produce their driver's licenses because everybody puts the card in a drawer, and it doesn't have a photo on it. Yeah, you know what? I would think you should be able to do that.
That's what it's for, right?
Yeah, maybe I'll bring it today, and I'll ask, because I got to go vote at the elections office.
Yeah, go ask him, and then report back. Go away and come back tomorrow and tell us.
Yeah, can I show this and get by, or is this a waste of paper?
Yeah, ask him. So anyway, so you have that.
Yeah.
But what this is saying, no, whatever you have, your real ID, whatever isn't enough, you need to have like a passport or something like it. And Republicans are saying, it doesn't say you have to have a passport. Yeah, but the bill says you can't use anything else.
Yes.
And not only that, if you have a passport and a birth certificate that says your name is Mary Jones, and Mary Jones marries Daniel Cooper, and now she decides to change her name to Cooper Jones or Jones Cooper or just Cooper,
right?
She doesn't have any documentation that she is real.
That is true.
So therefore, she can't vote. She'll be disenfranchised. I mean, that's what this bill does. It's awful.
Yes. The reason the passport is supposed to work is they keep saying it's a voter ID bill. Just show your ID, but your ID doesn't do what the bill says you have to do, which is prove your citizenship. And citizenship status is not on your driver's license, not even a real ID. Plus, of course, then if you say, well, okay, I've got my birth certificate and my passport, that will prove it. And then they say these have two different names. You have an alias. You might be a terrorist. My big question
is... Alias means alien.
Right. And there you go.
So almost the same word.
If you're an alias or an AKA...
So not only can't you vote, we're going to arrest you and deport you to Guantanamo or maybe El Salvador.
I am waiting to find out what happens to James Donald Bowman, or James David Bowman, if you prefer that. Or he's currently known, I think, as James David Vance. J.D. Vance has 3 different aliases, and he's, I would assume, has different names on various documents. He may have gone back and gotten his birth certificate changed, but you know how they love changing designations on official documents. I'm not certain they should let him break any ties in the Senate. If you can't vote in this country without establishing that you have all your documents, yeah, right. If I could tie the other end to something while he was wearing it, maybe, but then at least we'd have him leashed down somewhere.
So this terrible act goes to Congress, and the House passes it and sends it over to the Senate, just in Schoolhouse Rock.
Right.
Now, the Senate
Except
votes...
the bill is a jerk and not a cute...
To proceed with discussion, however the formal name of that is.
Debate, let's say.
And therefore, and that's a simple majority win. I think it wins 51-48 or something like that.
All right.
Okay. And even Fetterman votes against it, but there just aren't enough Democrats.
Yeah.
So debate will proceed.
Sure, why not?
And conservative outlets are touting this as the Senate passed along, get that little trick there? The Senate passed along the Save America Act.
Yeah, to itself.
Didn't pass.
Right.
Because all this was a motion to proceed, and then you get to debate it, and then at some point, I guess they have to invoke cloture.
Well,
and then you need 60 votes
final vote
to make it happen.
Yeah.
And then you vote on the bill. And it's not going to get 60 votes.
Right.
It might get 52. And so conservatives are all up in arms. You're not doing what Trump wants. How dare you not do what Trump wants? Right. But that's where that stands. So with all of that, I just thought it was really interesting that the Wall Street Journal editorial board made the case against this. Both on the substance of what's in it and what it would take to pass it.
There's a lot.
And this is where the talking filibuster comes in and all this other stuff, and all the congressional experts are saying, forget about talking filibuster.
Okay.
Your description of a talking filibuster is simply the Senate doing its job.
Yes.
Regular order.
I guess so.
You debate until you're not debating anymore.
Yeah. That can go on for a while.
That can go on for a while, and that's your definition of a talking filibuster. And the whole idea is you are supposed to keep this going until such time as nobody else has anything to say, and therefore cloture will be reached, and therefore you get the vote on it. That's their idea.
Yeah.
It's not going to work.
Not likely, no. You could make it work. I mean, it's physically possible to do it, but not with this collection of senators. Or indeed, really pretty much any collection of senators. It's never actually worked because it requires keeping the majority there all the time, and they do things like, we want to leave, we want to go to lunch, we want to go to a fundraiser. I don't like this.
We only work 3 days a week, for God's sake. What are you doing? You're keeping us here on a weekend.
So, it doesn't work for that reason.
I don't understand why they only work 3 days a week, but that's what they do.
Yes, they need the other 2
It's only a mild exaggeration.
Yeah, they need the other days to fly back and forth to the other place where they would tell you where I do more work. Over in my district.
Well, Murkowski, I get it, but the rest of them, not so much. So, why the Save America Act, says the Wall Street Journal opinion page,
why?
Won't.
Oh, yeah, all right.
A Pyrrhic victory on voting isn't worth busting the Senate filibuster.
Pyrrhic victory is not a victory had by Jeanine Pirro. There are none of those.
Right. Enhanced driver's licenses do show citizenship, and those can be used.
Very few
available
states.
In only 5 states.
Right. Yeah. That's true.
Right. Yeah. Minnesota, for example, has enhanced driver's licenses. It helps you go in and out of Canada.
Oh. Well, that makes sense.
There's 4.7 million active credentials for voting and licenses, and they've issued 782,000 enhanced licenses. So talk about disenfranchising the state if you only use that. Just gives you an example.
Not a lot. Okay.
So Trump wants to expand the Save America Act. The decentralized nature of American elections is a source of resilience. Leave it alone. That's to say nothing of what else progressives have in mind if Republicans do them the favor of launching a preemptive strike on the filibuster. Now we're talking about Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. as senators. You can't have that.
Yargle.
Yargle-bargle, right. But the Save America Act wouldn't turn blue states red, and it can't save Republicans from voter anger and unpopular policy. In the MAGA era, the bill could even marginally hurt the GOP. Harris in 24 won college grads and voters earning over $100,000 a year. Trump carried those with no degrees and lower salaries. Which coalition is most likely not to have passports?
True. Good point.
So vote this bill down. And it will go down. And I just want to mention that because you're going to hear a lot of hype about it and it's all nonsense. It's just not passing.
But interesting. A conservative case against it because, your coalition doesn't have the ideas.
Well, that's John Thune's case. John Thune, for all of his critics, kept saying, you don't understand. This bill, he says a quiet part out loud, this bill may or may not pass, but getting rid of current Senate rules, well, these rules have helped Republicans far more than they've ever helped Democrats.
Yeah, that was helpful of him to say because later on when Democrats control the Senate, people will ask us to do the same thing. And one lesson will be, well, the Republicans didn't because they thought it would hurt the majority. Well, that was because they were the majority.
Right. They didn't think it would hurt the majority. They thought it would hurt them.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And perhaps they are correct. And so maybe we should do it.
Right. It could just be possible.
There, I've run rings around you logically.
All right. Well, it was John Thune we were talking about. So
exactly.
You're like the Mark Wayne Mullen of MMA.
The Mark Wayne Mullen of Tommy Tuberville.
That's basically it. Congratulations. Yeah, this bill is garbage, and I love the fact that Trump insists that nothing else will be signed, whatever that even is supposed to mean, until it is enacted into law. Okay. I mean, he's just still a bus string.
The House got away around that. We're not passing anything until this bill becomes law. And we'll do that by voice vote. We don't have to sign anything.
Right. Yeah, I guess so. And meanwhile, I could read you the schedule of the various other things the House is going to vote on, despite what they said. They'll be voting on
we'll do it by voice vote. We are not putting our name to pen and ink and auto pen and all that nonsense.
It's the bill is garbage from top to bottom, not least because of the dumb lines they use to try to sell it. I have more to say about that, but it'll have to wait for at least 2 minutes and maybe an hour.
Hi everybody, this is Scott Anderson, your summary guy. Were you looking forward to an egalitarian democracy free of bigotry, misogyny, racism, and greed, where people of different appearances, belief, and heritage had a right to live without fear, and everyone could expect a basic level of health, stability, and safety throughout their life? Well, too bad. The plain fact is that we're heading in the wrong direction. And where we once had a voice in such things, increasingly we don't. Not exactly the kind of news I wanted to share, but there it is. However, if you're looking to join people who understand today's issues and can intelligently address the reality of today from your point of view, you can join us at Kagro in the morning. As you know, there aren't many of us out there, at least compared to them. We need to stick together, and by that I mean send us money. That is contributions to patreon.com, secure, reoccurring contributions. Those contributions keep this show on the air and us together. We've been through a lot together. The temporary loss of the presidency, we hope. The temporary loss of the House, the Senate, the Supreme Court, we hope. Face it, we are pretty much all that we have left. Remember, we couldn't do it without you, and you shouldn't do it without us. We're in this together, so thanks.
All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. We are continuing because there's more news. We're starting wars, and we're continuing.
Yeah, well, starting wars, but not clear as to how we finish them.
All right.
I sent David a map.
Is that really problematic?
It's a map of the Saudi Arabia, the Saudi Peninsula.
Yes,
and
the Saudi compound.
Have all of the different countries labeled, but Yemen and Oman there are at the bottom of the boot.
Yes, I guess it is a boot shape. Look at that.
Okay, and with Yemen at the heel, Oman at the toe, a couple of other, Kuwait is in there, UAE.
They're like
Abu Dhabi's there somewhere.
Bunions, I guess.
Right, but Jubail is the port where all the oil leaves the Persian Gulf, which David has labeled the frying pan Gulf.
Yes.
And then you go to the Strait of Hormuz and into the Arabian Sea.
Sure.
But the Strait of Hormuz is closed because of Iran.
Yes.
So about, 10, 15 years ago, the Saudis built a pipeline.
A pipeline.
From the right side of the map,
yes,
the frying pan Gulf, Persian Gulf,
yeah,
over to the left side of the map, to a place called Yanbu. in the Red Sea, also known as the Fire Gulf. So you can move oil from the frying pan over to the fire.
Yeah.
And then you have a second outlet that doesn't even need thermonuclear devices to build. And then you leave the Red Sea, and then you go out to the Arabian Sea. The problem there is at the heel of the boot, of course, is Yemen. Yemen is Houthis, and Houthis have the ability to do a second choke point. So there's an analyst who is of interest to me because he's often right. His name is Shanaka Anslem Pereira. He's from Australia.
What? Wow. All right. Multiculturalism.
And, he writes about some stuff happening which is really of interest. And what he says is the problem with going from the frying pan Gulf over to the fire Gulf is that you can avoid a checkpoint, which is the Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
But you can't avoid checkpoints, plural.
Right.
Because although the Yanbu bypass works, you then have to go past the Houthis, and that's another checkpoint.
Yes.
You can deal with that.
Worrisome.
It's a problem. The pipeline itself is actually pretty good. It moves a lot of oil.
That's nice.
7 million barrels a day, maybe. It's underground. It's hard to hit. It's hard to knock out.
Okay.
It won't do environmental damage so much because it's underground.
Desert.
So that's good.
Sure.
But it ends at a port, and the port loads tankers, and the port can be hit. And then you have to get past the checkpoint, and that checkpoint can be hit. But you can deal with that. There's sort of, you can probably get some oil out given all of that.
Yes.
All right? And that's good.
All
However,
right. If you like oil.
Oil is not the only thing that passes through the Strait of Hormuz. Welcome to nitrogen and urea.
Okay. This really doesn't sound good at all.
Fertilizer only is in the Persian Gulf. It's only in the frying pan Gulf.
Yes. All right. Fertilizer in the frying pan Gulf. Got it.
Both are west of Hormuz, so you have to go through the Strait of Hormuz to get them out. There's no east-west pipeline for nitrogen. There's no terminal in the Red Sea on the other side for ammonia. There's no overland route from the Gulf to a Red Sea port that carries fertilizer.
This is the smelliest business I've ever heard.
This feeds half the world. A lot of the fertilizer comes out of the Middle East.
You're right.
It's always been true.
It's
but
not
they
even thinking
actually
about
monetize
fertilizer.
it.
Yeah, that's true. That's really amazing.
If you monetize the bullshit, you will run the world. That's what's happened here.
Yeah, I guess so. Well, congratulations to them on the business model. It smells.
So
holy cow.
He summarizes it this way. Saudi Arabia proved that oil can bypass the Strait of Hormuz, but nobody has proved that fertilizer can. This is the sentence that reprices the entire war.
Yeah. What do they use fertilizer for out there in the world? Nothing.
For growing stuff. One of the things that they grow?
Plant butter.
Corn. Midwest farmers have to make a decision now to plant.
Well,
they can plant soybeans. Soybeans are interesting because their roots fix nitrogen, and so soybeans don't need as much fertilizer per dollar per capita as corn does. So if you're a Midwest farmer trying to decide today whether to plant and what costs more, fertilizer for corn or fertilizer for soybeans, soybeans are much cheaper, so maybe you plant soybeans. The problem with that is that, as Chuck Grassley will tell you, the entire United States runs on corn. Ethanol, which is mandated to be added to gas.
Also, no one will buy our soybeans.
Corn is used for feed for pigs and cows and all those other things that you play pit in the Chicago commodities trading,
Right.
And so if the price of corn goes up, the price of everything goes up. Well, why should we plant soybeans? Because doesn't Brazil now dominate the market thanks to Trump? Well, actually, the price of oil is making it so that maybe soybeans are competitive now because all the prices are going up. Now, what does that mean to the U.S. consumer? Not great things, which reminds me that I have a video for you.
No. All right.
Somewhere. I got to find it. It's our buddy,
Do I have it? Or you have to find
you don't have it yet
Okay.
because I haven't given it to you yet.
All right.
I'm going to give it to you good and hard.
Thanks.
And this is going to come from one of the Trump guys.
Oh, great.
Hassett. This is an Aaron Rupert thingy.
Okay.
And I'm going to give it to you, and you have to play it.
All
You
right.
got to figure it out.
Hassett. I know that guy. That's the smiley guy from the Vampire
so just
Show.
Send it to you at the bottom. Jake
All right.
Sherman.
What does Jake Sherman have to do? You said this was...
Oh, he's just retweeting a
right.
root bar.
All right, I'm waiting for it to... Oh, it's happening on Twitter. Oh, God. All right. There's Smiley Hassett. All right. He's
Can you see it?
He's very pleasant looking. You know, he looks like he's having a good time. And we will, too, if we listen to him. But, in fact, he sucks horribly. All right, yeah, I got it. Energy markets is on the screen. CNBC, Hassett is about to mouth off.
But the fact is that the U.S. economy is fundamentally sound, and that if it were to be extended, it wouldn't really disrupt the U.S. economy very much at all. It would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about, if that continued, what we would have to do about that. But that's like really the last of our concerns right now, because we're very confident that this thing is going ahead of schedule.
I don't even know what he's talking about, but he also sounds like he has a cold.
So it would hurt consumers, and we'd have to think about that, but that's really the last of our concerns.
Oh.
You should assume that will be in every single Democratic ad from now until November.
I see. Yes, I sort of lost the thread on him, but...
Or as someone else put it, the economy is fine, only the people living it are struggling.
Yeah, I guess so.
The economy will be fine unless you're somebody who buys things.
Right. Unless what you buy is entire crypto companies or movie studios.
Right. I mean, that's right up there with Pete Hegseth. Look, you can easily pass the Strait of Hormuz so long as Iran doesn't shoot at you.
Right. And by the way, we now
know why that's being proven. Why is everybody giving him a hard time about saying that?
I don't know. It's the most accurate thing he's ever said. And it does now. I do have that other story that I'm waiting on yet, but the truth is, they said the other day the Strait of Hormuz is open for navigation. It's just a lot easier if they're not shooting at us when we try to do it. But it is open. And we now found out it's open to navigation by other people. The Iranians are saying, as long as you're not an American ship or destined for the United States, bound for the U.S., you can ask our permission to go. Sure, go ahead. And there's plenty of other countries that are shipping through. So the other day when they said, well, there's boats moving through it right now, and we'll add escorts and we'll underwrite the insurance, et cetera, et cetera. It was what they didn't tell you was it's other countries' boats can go. It's only ours that are under threat at the moment.
And
why did that happen?
Ours and our allies.
Yeah, except we have one.
Therefore, we're losing allies. I mean, that's
right.
Basically what happens because the invisible hand of the market says, Right. What do you mean we?
Right, exactly. New coalition, the coalition of the willing to step over America's body to get your oil.
Right.
Sure.
Now, one of the ways
we talked
that Iran has put a hold on going through the Strait of Hormuz,
they're filibustering,
shooting missiles at ships and blowing them up. Yes. That's a problem.
Yeah.
They've also
a top
threatened,
problem.
or at least not ruled out the idea that they're going to mine the Strait of Hormuz. Now, whether or not it's been mined or not is unclear.
You want to find out?
Well, the claim that it might have been mined comes from American officials, and JB Last says yesterday, I printed it in the Pundit Roundup this morning.
Okay.
The claim seems to come from American officials, and the U.S. government is not a trustworthy source of information.
Yeah, I mean, I certainly would be willing to buy that surmise that they have mined or are preparing to.
The problem is it's not in Iran's interest to lay mines because they're saying that if you side with us, we'll let you through, and you can't do that with a mine because mines just sit there, and that's a problem.
Yeah, right.
So let's say, okay, I agree with you. You can go. And Iran says, okay, come through, and then there's mines there, then your ship gets hit. That doesn't work.
Yeah, you don't want that.
There's logic behind the idea that Iran really hasn't mined yet.
Okay.
Could, but hasn't.
Can you mail the mine that you're just like I'll turn it off while you go past and turn it back on again after you?
But JV Last writes, you didn't come here for strategy talk. I promised you the stupidest Trump mentals ever, so buckle up.
All right.
Mining the Strait of Hormuz is the single biggest danger America faced heading into any conflict with Iran. How did our commander-in-chief plan to deal with it? Decommissioning its 4 Avenger-class minesweepers that have been stationed in Bahrain precisely to deal with Iranian mines 6 months ago, and it gets dumber. These 4 final American minesweepers left the theater in mid-January in the middle of war planning for the current operation.
Maybe there was
no wait. It gets even dumber. Dumberer. Right. Our minesweeping capability in the Gulf now relies on littoral combat ships, LCSs, whose abilities have never been tested in combat. Will the LCS be a suitable replacement for Avenger-class ships? According to the Navy, no.
Oh.
Here's the quote. 9 months before Iran reportedly began mining the Strait of Hormuz, a U.S. Navy director in charge of the mine countermeasure stood before an audience of international naval observers in the UK and delivered a candid assessment. The Navy's next-generation mine hunting system suffered from unreliable unmanned vehicles, critical single-point failures, and sonar that couldn't see. The director's own conclusion, the LCS will always struggle to match a dedicated mine countermeasure vessel like the Avenger class that we are getting rid of. Okay? But we're still not done, because you may not believe it. The story gets even more dumberer.
That is hard to believe.
You know who has robust minesweeping capabilities? Our European allies.
What?
The same ones we've been insulting and threatening for the last 14 months. The Germans
They're
have,
so dumb.
France has, the Poles are more than anyone else in Europe threatened by Trump's abandonment of Ukraine. Oops.
What?
And now we're finally at the dumbest part. Are you ready?
Oh, no.
The Brits have one ship, HMS Middleton, stationed in Bahrain.
Oh.
Well,
is it named for
Kate
Middleton?
They don't anymore because it left on January 25th.
Oh, along with all of the rest of them.
Perhaps if President Trump had consulted our closest ally before going to war, he could have asked the Brits to leave it there, because the Brits only have 3 operational mine hunters left, and these have to be kept close to the home island to deter Russia.
I guess.
So the Iran war is like COVID part 2. An absolute bonfire of stupidity. It isn't just the case that American leadership, especially Trump and his Secretary of Defense, made avoidable mistakes. Thank you for calling it Secretary of Defense. That's what he is. It's not Secretary of War. You can't do that now without Congress.
Yeah,
it's that they steered into their screw-ups. It's one thing to lose military capability because you decided not to consult your allies. It's another thing to spend 14 months antagonizing them and demand they help you after failing to consult them. And someday military academies will teach Trump's glorious Iran war as a case study in armed incompetence. Every consideration was cocked up from the start in the most obvious and stupid way imaginable. Your average Warhammer nerd could have managed the operation more competently. But then again, Americans watch Trump's handling of COVID. If we don't do testing, we'll have very few cases, and still decided to give him control of the country again. So what else did they expect? That's H.L. Mencken. Americans, want democracy, and they deserve to get it good and hard.
And so we did. Yeah, and, I'm sure that it probably occurred to a lot of you, and, I don't know why it doesn't rate a mention, but you never know. But the alternative explanation for it, well, why, how is it that at 6 different inflection points, we did the dumbest thing possible every time, and then another even dumber level that didn't exist at the first inflection point.
Yeah, before we did this dumb thing.
Right. We didn't imagine it happening at the second inflection point because it was an impossibility. But then this dumbness created the possibility of doing something even dumber. How is it that all these things are decided in the worst possible way? And I mean, I think I hear probably people screaming at their radios like, what if your biggest geopolitical enemy was directing your operations? Wouldn't they, in fact, ask you to do the dumbest possible thing 6 times in a row? And would you do it if you were under their influence? And is there real? What are the odds that it was just the dumbest possible thing 6 times in a row versus a strategic plan of dumbness dictated by someone else? I mean, it is awfully hard to believe. We've sort of been raised to be on the lookout for the impossibility of, the Russian government just owning an American government and saying do these dumb things and people doing it. You'd impeach the guy. The 25th Amendment, there'd be people in the street. Yeah. No. I don't really have that many other alternative explanations. But one possible explanation is the dumbest regime ever is in charge for the second time. And we're just, what can you do? The law's the law. Apparently, the Constitution is a suicide pact after all. We were all taught that it was not. But as it turns out, they can't do anything. The guy won the presidency. He says surrender to Russia, so we're doing it. Oh, well. It is awfully dumb. We learned a lot about these, the minesweeping situation yesterday. I spent way too much time talking about it. But now we all understand this and what it means to find this out. One additional piece of information. I don't think we got to anybody reporting the conclusion that actually these littoral combat ships can't do minesweeping. There was some doubt injected yesterday, but we hadn't heard about this naval official
the admirals
saying,
think it can't.
Yeah, well, that's bad because they're the ones in charge of do we have minesweepers or not. So, all right, that is bad news. I wonder whether the other thing we learned yesterday is it's possible. Apparently, the British minesweeper leaving at about the same time as the American minesweepers could be coincidence, but it could also be some evidence of actually sharing information with purported allies and saying, we're going to have a war here and they're going to launch missiles at anything docked in Bahrain, so maybe you want to get out. But I don't know if they moved all their ships, maybe just the minesweepers. But then if that was the case, why did you leave? You knew what they were going to do in Hormuz, right? Yes. So I don't know. I'm not sure what to make of it. But the British probably are happy for having moved, and they've got another minesweeper to use in the North Sea, I guess. So, or I don't know where they think is going to be mined next. If they're worried about Russia, I suppose that's it. I don't know. Anyway, poorly handled once again in the Persian Gulf, and I don't know what to tell you, except that other countries are doing their best to make their own arrangements. I've got an Al Jazeera article about that other countries. This is what we were all talking about, I guess, when we read articles of other people talking about soft power.
Yeah.
And the American suicide under Trump of soft power is Trump, I guess, just assumed, he just never believed in it, or he just thought whatever soft power was, it was part of the background reality of an America-centric world and the America-centric century that has preceded this one. But for the thrust of the Al Jazeera article is essentially that other countries are just basically saying, how can we get past the Strait of Hormuz? First of all, they seem to have made the calculation, it's probably not mined because, we'll ask when we go to negotiate, but we're going to go to Iran and say, listen, we're not involved in this war, and we're not going to get involved in this war. The Americans are going to ask us to get involved in this war, but we're not going to do it. It's dumb. We have no beef here. That being the case, would you mind if our ships went through the Strait of Hormuz? And the Iranians have said, since you ask so nicely, no, go ahead and do that. And that, of course, indicates that most of the threat is, human controlled and optional, and they can actually launch a missile or not, depending on what flag is flying there. And maybe there are no mines. And that's the soft power issue. There's this problem of shipping in the Strait of Hormuz for America, and America figures everybody's going to rally to our side because we're the ones who dictate who's the good guys and who's the bad guys. That's soft power. When America says these are the bad actors here and we're on the side of right and freedom of navigation, et cetera, everyone will rally to our side. No one will cut side deals to get their own ships through and abandon America because America has assumed the mantle of leadership for the world. Now that the rest of the world is saying, America did this to itself, F them. Not only am I not going to help them open the Straits of Hormuz, there's no need for me to open the Straits of Hormuz. It's open. I just asked the people who owned it, can we go through? And they said yes. That's the end of American soft power. Now, the ability to define who's the bad actor, who are the pirates lurking in the Persian Gulf, Iran can point to America, and the rest of the world is saying, in the interest of getting through the Strait of Hormuz, I name the Americans the aggressors and pirates.
The great Satan.
Yeah. Crap. So 30 years later, they finally won the war over who's the great Satan. Oh, well, the orange guy.
So in the remaining minutes, I want to just say a word or two.
All right.
With video.
Oh, all right.
Now at the bottom.
Of the
Texas primary. The Republican Texas primary. Because the Democratic Texas primary is over. James Tallarico won. He'll be the candidate in November.
All right.
But the deadline for withdrawing your name from the voting has passed without an endorsement from Trump. So Cornyn and Paxton are both in it. And did I play for you, or have you play the Cornyn ad against Paxton before? The Ten Commandments ad?
No.
I just sent it to you. It's right at the bottom.
All right.
And that's merely a prelude to the next one.
Okay.
So I wonder if you could play that video.
I did open it. Okay. All right. So that's the last one on the line. This is 10. Okay. All right, I see. That's 10
What do a burner phone, a $1,000 Mont Blanc pen, and this cash machine have in common? They are symbols of Ken Paxton's depravity. Paxton used the burner phone and an alias to hide his affair from the mother of his children. Now his wife's divorcing him on biblical grounds.
Thou shalt not commit adultery.
A Mont Blanc pen stolen from another lawyer because once a crook, always a crook.
Thou shalt not steal.
And while in office, Crooked Ken increased his net worth by up to 7,000%, then used that fortune to buy 10 properties and claimed 3 of them as his principal residence to get cheaper mortgage rates.
Wait a minute.
Thou shalt not bear false witness.
Judgment Day comes for all of us eventually. This year, in Texas, Ken Paxton faces the voters.
Defeat the crook.
I'm John Cornyn, and I approve this message. Join my team and give today.
Nobody in that ad has a Texas accent, from God down to Cornyn.
Right. But, hardball.
Yeah, true.
So Cornyn's not leaving quietly. Paxton is still favored, but should Paxton win, he'll be damaged by what Cornyn is doing, and that only helps Tallarico and Popcorn Time. So that's how the Republican primary is going at the moment.
Cool.
Which makes this release sent to a reporter this morning really interesting, and I can't wait to see it. Here's how it reads. Cornyn campaign releases new music video starring crooked Ken Paxton and his mistresses. Welcome to Ken Paxton's Love Shack, where Dave P. can shack up with his mistresses. I guess that's his alias.
Oh, nice. I guess that's how he... All right. I saw that. I saw parts of that video. I mean, it's, it's a little weird. It's AI.
The Love Shack video?
Funny. Yeah. I saw it circulating
yesterday. Is it as good
yesterday.
as the Ten Commandments one?
Yes.
Which is to say bad, really cheesy?
Yes, right. This is all up there with Gather Your Armies.
Exactly.
One of my favorites. But yeah, an AI spoof of the B-52's Love Shack and the video for it, and, hastily slapped together parody lyrics don't quite fit the meter. It's funny.
Yeah.
But Ken Paxton, I guess, had
it's
two
a white
mistresses.
guy doing rhythm, right?
Had 2 mistresses, and I guess was meeting them at any one of his 3 primary residences or other properties. Dave P, I think, is the name, the alias he was using to make payments to maybe to Uber to move them back and forth. And, you get the idea through the... I wonder if I'm sure I can find it now. I guess I'll play it, and maybe if I get it in the next segment, you can, and I'll send it to you. You can enjoy it at home as well. Funny. Can't wait to see which one of them ultimately gets destroyed, I suppose. But they're really they're pulling out the big guns now, and that's funny. Yeah. Also, by the way, I'll point that out. They didn't make enough of it. They didn't have room for it. They were doing a 10 Commandments and God voice thing. But if he has 3 of his 10 properties designated as his primary residence, not only is that mortgage fraud, that's the kind of mortgage fraud that Donald Trump is insistent on charging Letitia James with and Adam Schiff with and various others that he says is disqualifying, and that you need to sic a U.S. attorney on him, except he can't find a U.S. attorney because none of them have been lawfully appointed. It's a very exciting time in the Department of Justice. So right. I guess Ken Paxton can look forward to that if he loses. He also has to run to stay out of jail. Good news.
Okay. So bad inflation data this morning. Stagflation. We've come close to describing the situation. And good luck, Trump. And good luck in November. And it's time
for you to
go away and come back tomorrow.
Yeah.
That's your permission. So it's a permission structure. I didn't think about that until just now.
Right.
All right. Very good. And you can come back tomorrow. We'll take another crack at analyzing all of the things that happened today that we screwed up the analysis with and see what develops for tomorrow. Good. I'm glad we have that to fall back on because there's more to do. I appreciate it, Greg. And if anything else occurs to you after the fact, do feel free to send that along. Or you could wait until tomorrow. That guy, that's the God voice they should have been using. Although everybody would have recognized it as the Wizard of Oz, I guess. But all right, let's see. I'll dig around for the Love Shack commercial, which I did see circulating yesterday on Blue Sky, which means if you didn't see it, then Twitter has lost the juice and you can quit there once and for all. It was one example. One very, very important thing that I'm sure it's also on Twitter, but many other important things happening there instead, and you probably had your eye there. Let's see. All right, we're about a minute away from having to exit, so there's nothing else we're going to be able to squeeze in, but I can look for that. Let's see, we need to get to that Al Jazeera article about everybody cutting their own side deals on the Strait of Hormuz, or as Trump now calls it, the so-called Strait of Hormuz. And I don't know what it is that he has doubts about. Why is it not called the Strait of Hormuz? Or maybe it's not straight, and so therefore he says, aha, it can't possibly be the Strait of Hormuz. It's a crooked waterway. And you know how he gets hung up about things being crooked. All right, so we'll read that and visit in with a number of courtroom developments that have been waiting to get reported here, though you have probably heard the basics about them. We'll see if there's any more detail that might help you interpret them as we move along. Thanks again, Greg. We will see you tomorrow. All right, welcome back now to the Kagro in the Morning Show here on Netroots Radio. Guess what happened? We hit the 2-minute break music instead of the 1-minute break music. So we got an extra 40 seconds or so of just playing the fun music. And you know, had I known that that was going to be the case, I could have played you 40 seconds of the other fun music that has occupied my mind, which, you know, that might be a nice time, pleasant time to do that. Ronnie Cantor's I Would Ask You, the folk music song I brought you the other day. I played the first couple minutes of it. I got to work in a time to just run through the whole thing. But I know that Justice has been using it as bumpers on the breaks as well. Maybe we just heard a little bit of it. I don't know. If I knew that I was going to be filling air with music, I would have done it with his. But I apologize for the extended absence. I was saying this break seems awfully long, and I was reading all sorts of other interesting ideas that I might present to you in this second hour. I guess I better get started because I have 40 seconds less than I used to before. Also, I guess on the agenda, one of the suggestions that Greg made in the chat on his way out the door that perhaps we might have been able to sneak in the 1 minute before we took off. Was the Joe Kent resignation. Oh, look, and guess what has just come in? I have two very important new emails. First is a new Patreon member, Chris Cammers, who joined in just in the last 20 minutes or so. But now he's canceling because of what a poor job we did with our transition. The second note is from Bill Barr, longtime sponsor, of course, who says, hey, 2-minute music break and not the 1 minute break. I thought this was a professional operation. Well, you were wrong about that, but I know you were just kidding. But so were we. I'm just kidding. It's a 2-minute break, everybody. I should have made more and better use of it. Taking a nap or something. All right. So there's more developments and more analysis of the Joe Kent resignation which I thought was of some interest, and I know I parked it somewhere in Instapaper here. Talking Points memo has they scored a lot of really interesting coverage in the last couple of days, but maybe I'll wait for that one and then bring you a Talking Points memo half hour essentially, and deliver instead for the moment on the promise of the demise of American soft power. I don't think anybody's portraying it this way. That's the damn analysis that you come to the show to get. The additional analysis that isn't in the newspaper or stuff. You know what? Maybe it is. Sometimes I just put these things aside and say, I'll read it along with you. I haven't skimmed it. Maybe they said it, but it seems kind of, well, we'll see. Whether it's outside the purview of Al Jazeera to declare the end of American soft power, or whether that's the very aim of Al Jazeera in the first place. That could be. This is offered as an explainer on the economy and the U.S.-Israel war on Iran. It's not just Al Jazeera that calls it that. We sometimes are calling it that. Strait of Hormuz, named for the island nearby of Hormuz. Which country's ships has Iran allowed safe passage to? That's the question. That's the headline in Al Jazeera. The question here in America is, have you heard that there are countries that Iran has allowed safe passage to? It was alluded to the other day when American administration officials were trying to claim that the straits were in fact open to navigation without saying they're only open to other people's navigation, not ours. But they tried to make out that, like, no, Iran hasn't closed the strait because we've been destroying their boats. They have no navy. They have no army. They got nothing left. They have no power whatsoever. But no one can sail through the Strait of Hormuz. Okay, wait, look, someone is doing it. Well, it's not because we've forced our way through. It's because someone else has cut a side deal. We didn't know that. We didn't. Because, Barry Weiss's network isn't going to tell you that, I guess. And most of the newspapers not going to tell you that. I guess it falls to Al Jazeera to let us know that there are such deals. Tehran allows a small number of ships from certain countries to pass through the waterway, which, as Greg correctly assesses, I think probably means they are not, in fact, mining the Strait of Hormuz. It may not be the case that there are zero mines in the strait, but they're not in the shipping lanes. And that's another important point to remember about the Strait of Hormuz. The map that Greg sent, one of the maps that Greg sent before, has a little, a close-up. Well, is this the one? I don't know. I've seen some other ones, or maybe it was in some of the articles that he sent that we opened up about it, but it's like a 24-mile or so span at the narrowest point of the Strait of Hormuz. And is this it? Is it the Minesweeper one that he sent? I don't know, from the Bulwark. Anyway, I've seen it mentioned before. It's 20-something miles across at the most narrow point, but that there are essentially shipping lanes, one goes one way, one goes the other way, so there's no collisions. And the shipping lanes themselves are about 2 to 3 miles wide. And there are 2 of them, so that's 4 to 6 miles of navigable water under normal circumstances out of the 24, 25 or so at the strait, which, leaves a lot of leeway if it's all the same depth and all navigable, and it just isn't. So it may very well be the case that there are mines in the Strait of Hormuz, just not anywhere in the 6 miles or so dedicated to shipping traffic. They may be closer to shore on the Iran shoreline, let's say, to prevent American amphibious landing craft from putting themselves ashore to take out missile batteries that the Iranians may, in fact, be using to enforce their supposed closure of the Strait of Hormuz, rather than mines. Well, they're not mining it. Don't tell Trump that, because he'll send the boats in to go and attack the shoreline, and what will they run into? Mines. You told me the strait wasn't mined. Yeah, the navigable part. What's the difference? It's all water. This is not who you want in charge. So, back to Al Jazeera. Strait of Hormuz. Which country's ships has Iran allowed safe passage to? Tehran does, in fact, allow a small number of ships to pass through. Let's find out who. Sarah Shamim and various news agencies get the byline credit here. During the United States-Israeli war on Iran, that's the terminology. That's their AP style book on that one. AJ style book, Al Jazeera, I guess you could call it. Tehran has said the Strait of Hormuz is open to all, except the U.S. and its allies. So as Greg says, just tell people you're not our ally and you can be able to get through. 1/5 of the world's oil shipments, as you know, transits through the strait. And that's before we get to fertilizer, ammonia, urea, yikes, sulfur was mentioned, sulfuric acid's been mentioned. This is the smelliest port in the whole world. Anyway, very biblical in its sulfur smelliness, I would think. And of course, being the cradle of, the war that dooms the world. On March 2nd, Ibrahim Jabari, a senior advisor to the commander-in-chief of Iran's Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps, IRGC for short, I think when he used that, announced that the strait was, quote, closed, and if any vessels tried to cross it, the IRGC and the Navy would, quote, set those ships ablaze, and if they're full of sulfur, PU. I mean, really just about anything. Burn a ship, it's a stinky affair. I'm pretty sure of that. We'll get back to the smell of war perhaps later in the show. The move sent oil prices soaring above $100 per barrel from a pre-war price of about $65. A barrel of everyone's new favorite Brent crude, the international benchmark, I guess that's why we keep hearing about it, was up 2.5% at $105.70 on Monday. That's more than 40% higher than before the war began on February 28th. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, I hope that's close to the pronunciation, told the U.S. television network CBS, I love how they refer to it that way, very stilted, the U.S. television network CBS, on Sunday that Tehran had been, quote, approached by a number of countries seeking safe passage for their vessels, and this is up to our military to decide. I did see part of his appearance on CBS and was rather astonished. I think we mentioned it on Monday that he correctly notes that Trump has said twice now. He didn't mention that it was twice, but that Trump has said he was conducting at least some parts of this war purely for fun. He had said, I think, at some point about sinking the Iranian ship, which, as it turns out, was A, unarmed, B, participating in an international celebratory event, and C, apparently was carrying, did we get to this? Not only did they kill almost everybody on board, but they were going to a pageant. They had marched in a parade, right? The personnel on board this ship that we sunk was the Iranian naval military band, essentially. It was a ship full of unarmed musicians that we sank. Did we get to that? I hope we made that point. At any rate, that was where Trump was telling everybody it was at the Republican retreat at his Doral Palace, where they had to pay, the Republican Party had to cut checks to Donald Trump in order to have their event there so that he could go there and say, I talked to the Navy and I said, how come we don't capture these ships? And they said, it's more fun to sink them. I mean, he did say it's more fun to sink them. So we sink them. It's more fun. And he also spoke about having bombarded the oil port on Karg Island up on the northern top of the Persian Gulf, and that we've totally obliterated, totally destroyed Iran's capacity there, and no one's left, and they have no defenses left, but we might hit it again just for fun. The foreign minister was entirely correct, but the interviewer, whose name I forget because I don't watch CBS News, was incredulous. What do you mean for fun? For fun? Like she didn't believe that he was correct and was accurately quoting Trump as having said that he was pulling some of these stunts for fun. But that's only because apparently the people who are in charge of bringing you the serious view of the news on Sunday morning don't actually watch the news Monday through Saturday. They just put on their show on Sunday. They have no idea what's going on outside of this. Anything, if it's not on the teleprompter, they don't know about it. Anyway, Back to the story. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi told CBS that a number of countries have approached asking for safe passage, and this is up to our military to decide, and I guess it is. He added that a group of vessels from different countries had been allowed to pass without providing details, nor, I guess, was there any follow-up question asked. So Sunday news viewers who go there for their, serious news got an inkling that the thing was opened, but they probably just didn't trust him because he was Iranian, so they didn't follow up. Just incurious about whether or not the strait was in fact open, and if so, why we kept saying it wasn't. Here is what we know about which countries' ships are being allowed to pass through the strait and which nations are reported to be negotiating for safe passage. And basically, any nation negotiating for safe passage with which we have any relationship whatsoever is an indication, as I said, sort of the end of American soft power, stepping over America's body. I didn't do this thing, you did. I'm going to try to conduct business as usual. First up, Pakistan. A Pakistani-flagged Aframax tanker. That's interesting. We learn classes of boats all the time on this show. Called the boat's name Karachi, that should not surprise you, sailed out of the Gulf through the Strait of Hormuz on Sunday. Bloomberg News reported, so American news is carrying that. That's true. We say they're not. It just means I didn't know they did. Anyway, now I do. There's an embedded tweet here, so Twitter knows that the first non-Iranian cargo transit of the Strait of Hormuz with AIS on, I guess their transmitter, the Aframax tanker Karachi, carrying Abu Dhabi's Das crude, I don't know what that means, but there you go, it's oil, obviously, Das crude, has become the first non-Iranian cargo to transit the choke point while broadcasting its AIS signal, suggesting that select shipments may be receiving, and you click on show more, and I'm not going to do that, but basically probably some sort of preferential treatment there. Who else is doing it? Well, if Pakistan is doing it, then India is definitely not, right? No, wrong. India is the second on the list. India. On Saturday, Iran's ambassador to India, Mohammad Fatali, said Tehran has allowed some Indian vessels to pass through the Strait of Hormuz. Wise to send a Mohammed to do this negotiating. In a rare exception to the blockade that has disrupted global energy supplies. Fatali did not confirm the number of vessels. However, on the same day, New Delhi said 2 Indian-flagged tankers carrying liquefied petroleum gas bound for ports in western India had passed through the strait. They crossed the Strait of Hormuz early this morning safely and are en route to India. Rajesh Kumar Sinha, Special Secretary to the Ministry of Ports, Shipping and Waterways, said at a news briefing in New Delhi. And if Trump and his cronies, read any news besides Newsmax and One American News and God knows what, Breitbart, they probably could have gone out there and saying, see, we did that, claim credit for it. We safely escorted them through. Tehran says the straits are closed, but America says no. Just look at this tanker. Well, okay. Pakistan, that's one thing. India, okay, they sent Mohammed, so that was probably helpful. It's rare to see the two of them side by side in something like that. They didn't negotiate for one another or anything. It's not. Let's not go crazy. But okay, India, Pakistan, sort of a, independent pole in international politics. Who else you got? Turkey, or as we now call them, Turkey. A Turkish-owned ship that had been waiting near Iran, one of those boats, we saw those charts of all the boats circling around wondering what to do. Well, one Turkish ship was allowed to pass through the strait after authorities received permission from a Tehran. Turkish Transport and Infrastructure Minister Abdulkadir Uraloglu. Goodness. Abdulkadir Uraloglu said in comments to Turkish media on Friday, doubtless in Turkish. I'm not going to be able to read that, but the translation, presumably, is correctly done here. 15 ships with Turkish owners were there. We obtained permission from the Iranian authorities for one of them that had used an Iranian port, and it passed, Uraloglu said. there's another. Maybe you've heard of these guys. China. They're not allied with us, but China makes, let's see, at least one other of the BRICS countries, India being the other. So, and there aren't that many of them. It's a small coalition. China is in talks with Iran to allow crude oil and Qatari liquefied natural gas carriers safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, the Reuters news agency reported on March 5th, quoting 3 unnamed diplomatic sources. China, which has friendly relations with Iran and relies heavily on Middle Eastern petroleum supplies, is unhappy about Iran's decision to paralyze shipping through the strait and is pressing Tehran to allow safe passage for its vessels, according to the sources. China receives 45% of its oil via the Strait of Hormuz, so they're going to be very definitely interested. And remember, this comes at a time when the hapless orange idiot is on television and every outlet he can get on saying the rest of the world should send ships. They should all be doing it. They all have a more interest. It's as hard on Iran as anybody else when they close the Strait of Hormuz. That's why I didn't think they would do it. But the whole world will unify because everybody needs to get through the strait. They are going to unify. They're just going to unify elsewhere and call Tehran and ask nicely, can we get through? While the Americans wonder, can we nuke enough of the Arabian Peninsula to dig a new canal? So, okay, there you go. Next up, surely it won't get any closer to the American coalition than that, right? India, Pakistan, China, Turkey. Oh, NATO member. Oh, that is a thing. France and Italy. Oh, look at that. The 2 European nations are understood to have requested talks with Iran about allowing their ships to pass through the strait. The UK's Financial Times has reported, citing unnamed officials. That one sounds a lot less definite and may not, in the end, get the okay. But ordinarily, I would say, well, yeah, the Iranians know what's what. They're not going to let France and Italy through if they're grappling with the United States. However, and again, this goes to the soft power question, just something that Trump just not only doesn't understand, but he doesn't even like the word, soft power. That's the dumb kind of power. We don't want that. No, that's the cheap kind of power. We do want that. Although it costs a lot of hard power to win soft power, but we're surrendering that now. Ordinarily, Tehran would say, I think I can understand that if we allow France and Italy to transverse the strait, that's tantamount to letting the Americans do it. We're not going to do that. And we don't want American proxies running the strait either. But I think they may be in a different situation now and may very well understand that it's a thumb in the eye of Donald Trump in particular to then say, in fact, the whole West is welcome to transverse the strait, just not you. Or if they really wanted to be hardcore, they could say, as long as the oil isn't bound for you, which most of it really isn't anyway. But that would be if the end result is, you know what? There's no problem in the Persian Gulf for anybody but America. And the rest of the world, which does get their oil from here, the larger percentage, that gets their oil, gas, fertilizer, whatever it is, you name it, you guys, your supply is not interrupted. All you have to do to get through is be willing to publicly say, we're not with that guy. The orange guy is on his own. We always used to be with the United States, whether we were in favor of the current regime there or not. But now, for the first time, Donald Trump has created an American regime that our own allies find it in their interest to say, we don't know that guy. I don't know her. I shake your head. Never heard of him. That's the destruction of American soft power. What is the naval coalition Trump proposed for the strait? Al Jazeera asked, well, who the F cares? Because it's stupid. But let's summarize it here. U.S. President Donald Trump has called for a naval coalition to join the U.S. Navy in deploying warships to secure the strait. But P.S., we just found out that allegedly France, Italy, China, Turkey, India, and Pakistan are all secretly negotiating with Iran. We don't negotiate with terrorists, but everybody else does. Or maybe they're negotiating to not have terrorism start there, but what can I tell you? All of them just essentially, like I said, willing to step over the dead body of America to get the oil, or at least not engage themselves in another war that they don't want to have anything to do with it. Now, the naval coalition Trump proposes, who should be in it, in his view? Hopefully, China, France, Japan, South Korea, the UK, and others that are affected by this artificial constraint will send ships to the area, big, beautiful ships, oh, so beautiful, to the area so that the Hormuz Strait will no longer be a threat by a nation that has been totally decapitated, except for that part of it right there, Trump wrote in a Truth Social post on Sunday. Well, how hopeful can he be that China and France will be participating, given that China and France are having negotiations on the side, ignoring the United States? Probably not good. Japan, well, they're not much on offensive war these days, so probably not. South Korea, maybe. UK, I don't know. They took their minesweeper out. We'll have to find out. Trump, however, these countries that Trump mentioned have made no promises to join such an operation. On Monday, Germany and Greece ruled out military involvement. A German government spokesperson said as long as the war continues, there will be no participation, not even in any effort to keep the Strait of Hormuz open by military means. And why would you need to? They're not closed, so long as you call and ask nicely, as it turns out. Greece will also not engage in any military operations in the Strait of Hormuz, government spokesman Pavlos Marinakis said. Marinakis, that's a great name for the guy in charge of the maritime traffic. Despite pressure from the Trump administration to provide support to the U.S. in its war on Iran, United Kingdom Prime Minister Keir Starmer told the media on Monday, "We will not be drawn into the wider war." So much for the coalition of the willing. Roger Shanahan, a Middle East security analyst, told Al Jazeera it is unlikely U.S. allies will get involved in securing the Strait of Hormuz, as the Trump administration suggested. And by the way, I'm just sort of turning it over in my mind as I just mention again the coalition of the willing. Again, a great illustration of soft power being used for hard power purposes, I guess. But soft power, what makes it soft power? The coalition of the willing. The willing part. That's an interesting coalition. Not the coalition of necessity or coalition for our very survival, but the coalition of the willing. And putting together a coalition of the willing in an atmosphere where, well, I guess it just doesn't take a genius to know. You can't be insulting people, spitting in their eyes, charging them exorbitant tariffs for no particular reason, which aren't even charged to them, just get in the way of their trade with the United States. We end up paying them. So I don't know about that. But willing, I mean, think about what is rolled into the word, and then think about how Trump treats every other country in the world. Who's going to be willing now? Anyway, where were we here? Let's see. Roger Shanahan, Middle East security analyst, said unlikely U.S. allies will get involved, as Trump is suggesting, indeed demanding, as they put it elsewhere. Shanahan said because most U.S. allies opposed this war to begin with, it makes them feel relatively less inclined to provide support to it. Less inclined is another way of giving an antonym to willing, of course. Willing and inclination being close. Besides, there's a practical issue. If you want naval support for some kind of coalition protection operation, it takes you a long time to get ships to sail to that area. You can't do this kind of stuff on the fly. That is true. And that's the end of the article, and almost time for us to take our last break. A great map here, by the way, in this Al Jazeera piece, which illustrates, in some greater detail what's going on at the Strait of Hormuz and how much of the strait falls into Iranian territorial waters versus into Omani territorial waters, and where the UAE's territorial waters begin. So it's a very like I said, it divides the narrow passage up into even narrower passages. Very interesting. And of course, we're reminded of the non-contiguous bit of Oman, which occupies the very northern tip of the land spit into the Strait of Hormuz. Very weird. We'll be right back. Hi, everybody. It's me, David, still your host for the Kagro in the Morning Show after all these years. Thank you for all your continuing support for the show. And if you're listening regularly and still thinking about getting on board as a supporter, well, the time is now. Patreon.com is the easiest way to make recurring subscription-style payments every month, all year round, to keep us going. patreon.com/KagroX brings you to our page where you can sign up with your monthly support. And hey, have you seen our clever new subscription tiers? It's easier than ever to sign up for, say, one crisp dollar bill for every information-packed 2-hour show. If you're the plan ahead type, there's even a year-long subscription program that saves you 15% on the cover price. Or it would if there was a cover price, or even a cover, for that matter. patreon.com/KAGROX. Thanks again for all your support. All right, welcome back, everybody, to the Kagro in the Morning Show for one last segment here before we exit for the day. And now, crunch time. How much more can I fit in here? Let's see. I wanted to throw in something maybe as a follow-up to the American soft power discussion. I mean, it's a little weird and esoteric, I guess, but I've just been seeing people post about it lately. I haven't been watching. Another thing I'm not watching, the World Baseball Championships. Though, again, we got some mention the other day because there's this weird feeling that the American team, which you have to believe has got to be among the favorites to win the thing, but isn't and didn't, by the way. If a spoiler alert, I guess, if you were waiting to watch the last bit here. But just the American team sort of doing the USA men's hockey thing and being a powerful contender that is in the running for the championship, but that is making the rest of that sport playing world, or indeed all the sport enjoying world, dislike or even hate them for various reasons. And that has been apparently the case, at least among the fans of baseball watching the championship and commenting about it at Blue Sky. I don't know how it looks on Twitter, but just disappointment with the way the Americans are conducting themselves. So anyway, upshot is this. We lost, okay, in the championship game. In other words, we won the silver medal, which, from watching the Olympics, it's an achievement, right? And of course, anyway, it's just very interesting. I'll take the comment here from Natalie Weiner, who is on Blue Sky, a Dallas-based freelance writer who makes the very good point in watching Sports Blue Sky talk about this event. Here, a short video clip on an endless loop of Mason Miller being among the USA players who immediately took off the silver medal. I've seen this happen before, or people who make faces, for instance, about having won the silver medal when they were hoping to win the gold medal. But the point correctly made here by Natalie Weiner, isn't American baseball allegedly obsessed with, maybe no more so than any other sport, but because this is the American pastime, isn't American baseball allegedly obsessed with sportsmanship and tradition and whatever? So it was just excuses for racism, as we knew all along, LOL. Why racism? Well, and I won't get into that point of it necessarily, but I will go into the soft power point here of as if God himself, after finishing the voiceover for John Cornyn's television commercial, could intervene here and make a commentary on American soft power and prestige and standing in the world. If there's anybody that could stick a thumb in Trump's eye in the baseball world, who should win the World Baseball Championships but Venezuela? right in front of everybody. I mean, look, it's not that they're not a baseball power or anything, and that there isn't baseball power distributed all across the Americas, but, you know, it could have been anybody, and nothing could be more calculated to deliver a thumb in the eye than Venezuela to have won this thing. And then for Americans to conduct themselves so poorly on the world stage afterwards. Look, Mason, you're on camera. You're just steps away from having gotten your medal and going to line up with the rest of your team. Just wear the damn thing. And, you know, there was another good point about it made, and I didn't put this one aside, unfortunately, but somebody else commenting on the same thing, and maybe on Natalie's comments, that not only is there, you know, is this sportsmanship thing going on, but I don't know, just the idea of being on the world stage and showing yourself to be a petulant baby in international competition. I don't know. It's just, there was another great point. I wish I remembered who had made it so we could bring it up and give it to you word for word, but it was just a good point. But the baseball writers themselves are writing about this, and the fact that it also coincides with this war of choice, this oddball war of choice that all of our allies are running away from in the Persian Gulf, gets to this overall soft power problem. This is actually baseball writers in a New York Yankees online community called Pinstripe Alley. Never read it, you know, whatever, but it's an interesting place to be turning to for commentary on something. Joshua Diemert, D-I-E-M-E-R-T, is our writer here. It was just yesterday. He wrote this, The World Baseball Classic, Team USA, and the War Problem. The subheader just being On Conduct Unbecoming. Let me see if I can run through this quick so I can get to the other things I wanted to bring you. But this is important. We watched Bowling for Columbine in high school 16 or 17 years ago now. He's a youngish guy. And there's a scene in the documentary that stuck with me since. Michael Moore visits a Lockheed Martin facility not far from the titular high school, where once a month a ballistic missile leaves the factory for U.S. installation in Colorado Springs or for delivery to the Navy on the California coast. That alone is the mere business of war. What's striking is how many residents gather on highway overpasses to watch the journey of the missile. Almost fangirl behavior in reverence to the threat of mass death and destruction. I don't remember that one. That one didn't stick out for me. Although I'm not certain I saw Bowling for Columbine. Now I think about it. I don't know. Anyway, I bring this up, this mouth-watering desire for chaos, catastrophe, and man-made horror because of how Team USA has behaved at the World Baseball Classic. The military-industrial complex's relationship to North American pro sports has always made me feel queasy, but the doubling and tripling down of it all in an international tournament where the Dominican dugout felt like an outright party, and Italian Americans kissed each other among rounds of espresso, made me recoil. This is the thing we were hinting at the other day, that all the other teams had found some way to celebrate their culture in an upbeat and positive way, and that the American team adopted a military theme in order to do this. It was very odd. Cal Raleigh's T-shirt was emblazoned "Front Toward Enemy," the same printing found on M18A1 Claymore mines that America keeps in its arsenal specifically because it circumvents the Ottawa Treaty, something the country hasn't even signed but pretends to adhere to. This is a lot. This is a baseball writer. Before a quarterfinal game against Canada, Team USA manager Mark DeRosa decided that his boys needed inspiration, not from a legendary American baseball player, many of whom are still alive, but rather a former Navy SEAL, one who both broke the standard SEAL code of silence and who apparently has rather unusual ideas about how to spend time with younger men. It is Robert O'Neill here, whose tweet is embedded from a couple of years ago. I think we mentioned this one on the air when we saw it. Somebody tweeting a picture of themselves getting ready, wearing their Harris Walls hats during the 2024 election, saying, we're Gen Z voters and we all proudly voted for Kamala Harris. Real men support Harris, they said. And he answers, you're not men, you're boys. If there was no social media, you would be my concubines. Do you remember this one? I don't remember. I remember reading it for some reason and reading it and saying, I'm sorry, do you know what that means? What are you talking about? And once again, that's now back in the news. That's the guy who said that is the guy they decided to put in front of the team for its pep talk. Well, I guess it didn't work. Anyway, every time Paul Skeens picked up a baseball, we were reminded he spent 2 seasons pitching for the Air Force Academy, with very little attention paid to how quickly he transferred to LSU once it became clear how much more financially lucrative that path would be. This team was set on making its entire identity a continuation of the American military machine, the same machine that has overseen the murder of 160 schoolgirls and the death of at least 13 of its own service members at the same time this silly baseball tournament took place. And to what end? What is all this in service for? Should be of, but it says for. There are many that will chide me for bringing politics into sports. That, I think, is the point we wanted to bring up, and I had forgotten who had said it on Blue Sky, that the WBC is a vehicle to get away from all the rest of the world, but your own team refused to allow that to happen. 30 grown men, more than that, but I'll complain about the silliness of moving players on and off your roster later, openly played Army guy for 2 weeks, throwing themselves prostrate before missile launches and drone strikes. Team USA took a side. They brought politics into sports. And isn't that usually the Republican complaint? Just play a sport and shut up. I think it says something about the American mind that this is how a collection of players from across the country would choose to market themselves. I'm writing this during the Oscars, where Sinners was widely recognized, a celebration of a very specific piece of American culture, blues music that became jazz that influenced nearly everything we hear today. The great musical history of the United States, the diversity of thought and ethnicity and language that creates some of the greatest cultural spaces in the world. Goddamn Saturday morning cartoons. There are so many quintessential Americanisms, every Americanism that Americans have made up to comfort themselves, and 30 ball players refuse to wrap themselves in any of that. Instead, they wanted to align themselves with men whose sole concerns are whether they've purchased enough tomahawks to replace the one they just slammed into the roof of a school. This is the baseball column, the Yankees fan community. Where does this bloodlust come from? What in the American mind, the sports fan's mind, the athlete's mind, says we must fall down before the tanks and the planes and the bullets and the bombs? This didn't feel nearly as present during Team USA's previous runs to the championship game in 2023 and to its only title in 2017, where the lasting image, aside from Adam Jones's robbery of Manny Machado, was just of the U.S. players partying with a goofy eagle statue that happened to belong to some father-in-law. I'm not naive to the political affiliation of most of the players I like to watch, but at no point did someone put their hand up and say, it's odd that we're taking inspiration from a man who allegedly helped assassinate Osama bin Laden. Roger Clemens was in the building throwing out the first pitch. Couldn't we, talk to him? To cap it all off, this is edifice, and a cheap one at that. David Bednar is not a Navy SEAL, and for all the admiration I have for Aaron Judge, he is not a field general. The moment this team disbands, whether or not they win in the final tonight, they did not, Judge will come back to the Yankees and be the same boring, extraordinary offensive force. Captain Vinny Pasquantino has talked about how being on Team Italy, for all its funny little ticks, made him more appreciative of his own heritage. What heritage does pretending to be an army guy reach for? The joy the Venezuelan team took in itself, even as it's directly threatened by the very same Team USA, or the very same entity Team USA pretends to be, runs so much deeper into what it means to represent a country. It shouldn't be a coincidence that this hollowness bleeds into why the American team is just so staid and boring. They were out-vibed by every team they played, despite their success in the tournament. You can't hero worship an ICBM. And there's nothing real in pretending to wear fatigues. For all the goodwill this tournament brought the game of baseball, Team USA sure got none of it on them. That is really something. To see the Yankees community, the baseball community, discussing it in these terms. And yeah, for all the goodwill this tournament brought the game of baseball, no goodwill for the United States. Soft power, it's a real thing. People want to play for other teams if they can claim heritage and play that way, and would just rather be in the tournament representing the fun of baseball internationally. And the American team is about F you all, and then guess who loses, and guess who they lose to. Really rather remarkable, I think. Remarkable enough to actually spend time on it when I have to tell you about so many other things. To catch up on, I said there was going to be a Talking Points memo segment of today's show, and I guess this we'll use this as the segue, the pretending to wear fatigues. Markwayne Mullin is, I guess, alleged to be the secretary designee for the Department of Homeland Security now that what's-her-name has been fired. I already forgot her name. Kristi Noem and her undersecretary are on the outs. So Markwayne Mullin is said to be next. Although, again, I say, show me the paperwork. And I guess now I have a question. Has Markwayne Mullin, it will be eventually required that Markwayne Mullin, if he's approved, certainly, if his nomination is confirmed, will have to resign from the Senate. But sometimes these guys resign ahead of time in order to prep themselves for their confirmation hearings. Probably not the case if you are currently in the Senate. It's probably better for you to be in and among the people who are going to be voting on your confirmation, and it's never a sure thing. So the smart play would be don't resign yet, but who are we talking about? Well, don't tell me what the smart play is. Tell me what Markwayne Mullin is going to do and Donald Trump is going to demand. Anyway, hopefully, I guess for his own sake, he hasn't already resigned, because TPM and Hunter Walker have this to report. Markwayne's World, the cinematic and fantastical life of Trump's DHS pick. In case we don't get all the way through it, long story short, once again, America has nominated to national office a Republican fabulist whose resume stands up to no scrutiny whatsoever. Almost everything that is a highlight of this guy's supposed resume is a lie or fabulism or an enhancement to which he is not entitled. And he goes through all of it here. There's really just not much else behind Markwayne Mullin. But now he stands, look, he blundered his way and inflated his way into the House of Representatives. It happens from time to time. We had George Santos in the House of Representatives. It happens. Then, because Oklahoma, he blundered his way into the Senate there, although that really should have been stopped at some point. Is this guy for real or not? But they don't care about such things. Now, he's going to be, maybe, Secretary of Homeland Security. God, I guess at this point we really have to take a look. Did he do any of the things that he said make him famous and qualified for any of the jobs that we've given him so far? And I think it was just fabulism, and he thought, I'll get into the House and fine. Whatever. It doesn't really matter. Nobody's going to question whether or not I'm a total liar. I'm just one of 435. Senate, well, I don't know. But he got through the test. He's one of 100. Now he's going to be one of a dozen, and I guess people are going to look at this stuff. Hunter Walker did. Here's what he got. Markwayne Mullin has an incredible story. The Republican U.S. Senator is an entrepreneur and former mixed martial arts fighter. That unique experience has been a core part of Mullin's political brand and featured in multiple campaign ads, including one that showed off his punching bag workouts alongside footage of President Donald Trump declaring, Markwayne Mullin, you don't want to fight with him. And you don't. But if you did, you might be able to get by. However, following his nomination by Trump to lead the Department of Homeland Security, some aspects of Mullin's record have come under scrutiny. All of them should, of course. But, it is possible he may get by. This is one of the benefits of nominating a fellow senator, is they all have good feelings about him. He's a decent guy. I don't know, what the hell. If you're actually asking me to examine his record and say, oh, he's an inveterate liar and a total fabulist, golly, I feel less comfortable now. I like him, but he's kind of a big liar. That could be a problem. TPM has found that Mullen has a pattern of making improbable claims. We'll say that raised eyebrows among his colleagues, and even one Brazilian jiu-jitsu coach, find out why later, who left the meeting believing the lawmaker was, quote, full of crap. He did say crap here, when it came to his martial arts exploits. And I mean, what else has he got? One member of Congress who requested anonymity to candidly discuss private conversations said they were similarly skeptical after a sit-down with Mullen. We just sat and talked. He just told me this story of his life that was so cinematic, the member of Congress said. Member of Congress. His stories were just so fantastical. TPM reached out to Mullen's office to ask about his allegedly exaggerated stories. We received a statement, not from them, but from White House spokeswoman Abigail Jackson, quickly contending for worst of the worst honors here, who dismissed the reporting, criticized former President Joe Biden's record on immigration, and suggested Mullen was an ideal choice to deliver on Trump's border policy. Just funny because, of course, somebody was rereading just the other day Trump's declaration that Joe Kent was ideal for the counterterrorism job, and then he left, and now he says, I never trusted that guy. He's actually soft on terrorism. But here's the rest of their statement. Here's the truth. In record time, President Trump has ended Biden's border crisis and deported countless dangerous criminal illegal aliens. Senator Mullen is perfectly suited to lead the Department of Homeland Security and work closely with President Trump to continue building on his many successes. Questions? Whether it be protecting the homeland from bad actors, stopping dangerous drugs from flowing into American communities, or removing the worst of the worst criminal illegal aliens, please, Senator Mullen will work tirelessly to implement the president's agenda. We're asking about why is he a fabulist and why did you nominate him? However, the concerns about Mullen's prior claims are not just coming from anonymous sources. Trump revealed Mullen as his pick to lead DHS effective March 31st, it says here in quotes for some reason, in a post on his Truth Social platform earlier this month. And I guess maybe that's it, scare quotes, because did he really do it? Although I would say Trump, quote, revealed Mullen as his pick. The president made the announcement at the same time that he fired the prior DHS secretary, Kristi Noem, whose tenure at the agency, which is in charge of immigrations and customs enforcement and largely responsible for Trump's mass deportation agenda, was beset by controversy. In the days ahead of his nomination, Mullen's penchant for elaborate storytelling made headlines. On March 2nd, in an appearance on Fox News, Mullen, who is a member of the Senate Armed Services Committee, offered up an evocative description of the reality of conflict. So I want you to keep in mind, bearded guy, MMA fighter, rawr. That's what we kind of sort of know about him. So his quote, if you don't know anything about him, and I don't, here's the quote. What does this make you think? War is ugly. It smells bad. I told you we were going to get back to the bad smells. It smells bad. And if anybody's ever been there and been able to smell the war that's happened around you and taste it and feel it in your nostrils and hear it, it's something that you'll never forget. And it's ugly, Mullen said. And if I asked you, so tell me about bearded MMA guy. He's a veteran, Iraq, Afghanistan, something? No. While Mullen's description suggested personal familiarity with the field of battle, he has not actually served in the armed forces. Not that he served and wasn't in a combat role. Never in the armed forces. But my nostrils. And by the way, him and nostrils. This is the same guy who was taking pictures of himself, sticking his finger up the nostrils of members of Congress and their spouses on a trip to, was it a trip to Israel? Just pointing that out. You know. Nostrils again. Nostradamus here. While Mullen's description suggested personal familiarity with the field of battle, he has not actually served in the armed forces. Representative Pat Ryan of New York, a Democrat, an Army veteran who did serve in Iraq, pointed this out in a Twitter post where he took Mullen to task and suggested the senator had exaggerated his own record. Hey, Senator Mullen, what the actual F, it's F and dashes. What the actual F are you talking about? Ryan wrote. Did I miss the part of your bio where you served in combat or served in uniform at all? Call of Duty doesn't count. In addition to Ryan's scathing questioning, Mullen's comment generated a wave of similar reactions and critical coverage. What do you know? Amid the controversy, he appeared on a conservative podcast on March 3rd, where one of the hosts referred to him as, quote, a veteran. Mullen offered clarification there that raised its own questions. First of all, let me clarify. Right? Never remember the armed forces. What's the clarification? I did special assignments outside of DOD, Mullen said, using an acronym for the Department of Defense. I never wore the uniform or the flag. I got to work alongside of those guys, and they're phenomenal individuals. Apparently, I guess he installed toilets, maybe, for somebody who was once in the Air Force. I don't know. There's no such thing as a special assignment that brings you into nostril contact with war. It was unclear what special assignments Mullen was referring to. Mullen's recent comments about his experiences with war prompted a round of fact-checking, including a definitive piece from Poynter, which noted the remark could have been a reference, they're going to sandwash it, to an incident in 2021 when Mullen, who was a member of the U.S. House of Representatives at the time, attempted to enter Afghanistan to perform a rescue mission amid the American military's chaotic departure from the country. Based on his own statements about the trip, though, Mullen never actually made it on the ground. His office did not respond to Poynter's questions about what special assignments he was involved in. That I do sort of remember. And I guess it's sort of kind of passed as making a dumb kind of sense at the time, since everybody probably thought, well, MMA fighter, beard, tough guy, probably was in the military trying to do it himself. Nope, never the case. While Mullen's various remarks about war have made the news, his stories about another type of battlefield have been a far more prominent narrative in his political career. Since his first House campaign in 2012, Mullen has regularly touted his status as a former professional cage fighter. The main image on his campaign website is currently a picture of Mullen wearing a t-shirt from his high school wrestling team, standing in front of a kickboxing bag and a display showing the colored belts used in various martial arts disciplines. Mullen's biography on his site touts him as a former mixed martial arts fighter with a professional record of 5-0 and a fighter for America first. Mullen's site also touts the fact that he was inducted into the Oklahoma Wrestling Hall of Fame in 2016. Somebody on, Blue Sky put it, he paid $300 to who's who in Oklahoma wrestling. I don't know whether that's true or not, but whatever. His biography on that organization's website largely cites his political and business achievements, rather than, say, wrestling, while noting that a recurring shoulder injury ensured he only wrestled briefly at Missouri Valley College, he didn't graduate, by the way, after practicing the sport in high school. So, I don't know, Hall of Fame, if you say so. Along with featuring his identity as a fighter in campaign materials, in 2023, Mullen brought his pugilism to the Senate floor when he stood and challenged a union leader to a fight during a hearing, which wouldn't, of course, be on the Senate floor, but okay. The exchange prompted Senator Bernie Sanders to urge the two men to sit down. I believe we read about that. Mullen does indeed have a record in the ring. Multiple MMA databases identify Mullen as having an undefeated 3-0 record. All right. TPM asked Mullen's office and the White House if they could provide a source for this 5-0 claim. No request, no answer so far to that one. On March 12th, Mullen's MMA career was the subject of scrutiny on the Pablo Torre Finds Out podcast produced by The Athletic. The show's host, award-winning sports reporter Pablo Torre, and his guests, comedian Wyatt Cenac, maybe, and political commentator Tim Miller, took note of the discrepancy in the record. According to his stats, he is an undefeated fighter who's either 5-0 or 3-0, depending on what sources you look at. Cenac said, you can't quite tell. Torres notes, and that's true. The show also delved into the details of Mullen's 3 documented victories. One came in 2006 against a man named Bobby Huggy Bear Kelly, who at the time was 18 years old. Mullen was 29. I have a lot of questions around a man in his late 20s who choked out a teenager, but that counts as a victory, I suppose, Cenac said. And the kid volunteered for it, right? Kelly did not immediately respond to a request for comment from TPM. Mullen's two other documented professional victories, both of them, came in 2007 against the same guy, Clinton Bonds. According to MMA databases, Bonds' record includes just 1 win and 11 losses. While TPM was unable to reach Bonds for comment, we did find footage of him participating in a boxing match from around the same time. The video shows Bonds losing while eating a slew of punches and falling to the ground repeatedly. All of Mullen's documented MMA bouts came in 2006 and 2007 in the Extreme Fighting League, which is an Oklahoma-based promotion that often featured amateur fighters making their professional debut. The years when Mullen fought were also a time when MMA was far less competitive and popular than today. On the podcast, Miller questioned the quality of Mullen's competitions. He's 3-0 in what appears to me to be like a semi-pro MMA league based in Tulsa. It kind of feels like somebody playing in the company softball league, winning 3 championships, and then running for Senate on the strength of being a softball champion.
NetworksRadio.com. You have been listening to Kagro in the Morning with David Waldman.
It's really remarkable, and there's more to it, and it gets more detailed and more embarrassing. But once again, having to deal with a fabulist for national office. Why does this keep happening to me? Well, I don't know, but maybe Justice Putnam does. His show, The West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, comes up next right here on Networks Radio. We'll see what's up on his agenda. Top of the list, hey, the Coalition of the Unwilling. See you tomorrow.